We are delighted to announce that the Neurodivergent Experience has partnered with RTN Mental Health Solutions. With up to a 5-year waiting list for autism and ADHD assessments via the NHS, and that's even if you get a referral from your GP, getting an assessment in the UK has never been harder. So if you're like me and can't wait anymore, going private may be the best option for you. RTN offers online assessments for kids aged 6 right up to adults, with prices starting at £900. To make it more accessible, RTN can offer payment plans up to 5 months. You can access their remote services from the comfort of your home anywhere in the UK, and RTN offers group and one-to-one counselling, a private route to access ADHD medication following the assessment, and will even fight for you if your GP doesn't accept the results. So if you live in the UK and can't wait to get an assessment, go to www.rtnmentalhealthsolutions.com and use the discount code RTN23, making it even more affordable for all of our listeners to get an autism and ADHD assessment.
Hello, and welcome to the Neurodivergent Experience. I'm Jordan James, also known as the Autistic Photographer, and I'm joined by my co-host and very best friend, Simon Scott.
And for this episode of the Neurodivergent Experience, we are talking about neurodivergent people who have shaped our lives.
Hey dude, how's it going?
Hello, it's another week, it's another episode. They come round quick, don't they? I feel like I see you so much now, which is so wonderful. But yes, it is another episode, and we're doing one today, which I think is going to be really interesting. It's given me lots of time to research and think about neurodivergent people who have had effects on my life in different moments. So I'm looking forward to talking about that. But before we start that, guys, we're going to remind you, we mentioned it last week, that we have got our first ever live show coming up, which is going to be happening in September. It's the 20th of September at the Autistic Minds live show in Cardiff. So if you can come down, please do, because we will be taking the stage at 1:45 on the Friday, and we would love to see a couple of you there. So please come on down.
And we're going to have a stall, and you can come and get selfies with me, and if you want one with Simon, I'll look at you strangely, but I'm sure he can.
So mean.
He can oblige. It's not my fault I look like this. So I'm very excited about the live. I think it's going to be great. Both our better halves will be joining us, so they will be hanging around. Sylvia will be hiding, as Sylvia does, but she will be there. So maybe we can coax her out of a corner somewhere, and then we can meet everyone, and that'll be really, really cool. Wanted to mention that it is a free event.
Yes.
No free tickets. You do not have to pay. You have to register, but you do not have to pay for a ticket. For more details, please go to the Autistic Minds website, which is at Google Autistic Minds website.
Other search engines are available. Why you'd use them, I don't know, but they are available. So go on their website. There'll also be links in the description of the podcast below. So just scroll on down on your phone if you listen on your phone, and it will be there.
And we will see you there.
And we'll see you there.
So, neurodivergent people that have shaped our lives. Now, when I was doing the research, or when we were actually doing research, we were kind of like, I really like this person, or I really like that person. That person's had a big influence. But we were really struggling going, wait, I know that they're neurodivergent. Or at least I highly suspect that these
my radar is people, going a ding ding ding.
Yeah, literally. And there was a whole bunch of people that really, really shaped my life, especially people like Matt and Trey from South Park, Nick Park, making Wallace and Gromit, and Jim Henson.
Oh, I love the Muppets so much.
Love everything that man did, and then everything that happened afterwards. Because of him. I mean, Muppets Christmas Carol is literally the greatest Christmas movie.
My favourite Christmas movie.
It's everybody who is intelligent.
For us,
it is literally.
Well, one of the things that I like about the Muppets Christmas Carol is Michael Caine gives a Shakespearean level performance of Scrooge to Muppets, and he's incredible in it. It's such a great acting performance. Like
He deserves
he's
an
really
Oscar.
good. He's really good. Being able to like do those scenes to Muppets, but still give it the seriousness of a Dickens story. Michael Caine, put him up there.
That's what
Legend.
made that movie. That is what made that
Yeah.
movie. He just played it straight. So, anyways, aside from the Muppets, Jim Henson is not confirmed to be neurodivergent, but we highly suspect that he is. But we are going to put people on this list have a diagnosis of a neurodivergent diagnosis of some sort. Now, we're not going to go into details about what the diagnosis is, because to us, it really doesn't matter. That is not why we're talking about them. The fact is, these are neurodivergent people that we looked up to, and we still look up to, a lot of them, who have shaped our lives. Now, there was a couple that people might not agree with. People might say, well, there was controversy, you know, they had different opinions and shown signs of the times and things like that. But again, that's not what we're here to discuss. We're not here to say whether they were good or they were bad. We're just going to talk about them because these are the people that when we were young and as we grew older, they shaped our lives. So it's not about their personalities or anything like that. It's just about what they did as people. We actually, this was the best thing. We came up with a whole bunch that we actually have in common.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is why we're best friends, because we love the same things.
But we were trying to find our own that were individual, and we kept going, oh yeah, I've got those written down as well.
Literally.
Blimey.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think we should start with probably the person who has shaped our lives the most as far as like what we loved watching as kids, and that's Walt Disney.
Yes. I think back of watching Walt Disney from the youngest of ages. I was born the year The Lion King came out. I know.
My favorite.
Yeah.
My personal favorite.
But I grew up in the era of like the Disney Renaissance era. So we're talking Hercules, we're talking Aladdin, we're talking Tarzan, Emperor's New Groove, you know, Atlantis, The Lost Empire. We're talking like that era of Disney. So, you know, you've got Michael J. Fox doing voiceovers there. So all of these sorts of like eras were really of my
Pocahontas.
time. Yeah, exactly. And when you go a little bit further, we go into like The Little Mermaid and Beauty and the Beast.
I love The Little Mermaid.
It's like I can even think even further back, dude. I used to get a lot of sensory joy from opening VHSs, from the click and close feel. And I used to just have Disney VHSs open all the time, clicking and closing them open because it used to make me happy. That's literally the tiniest of details of how much influence this has had.
Talk about VHSs. So my sister and I loved the Beauty and the Beast song, The Tale as Old as Time. We loved it so much that we would play it over and over again. And if you put the VHS in, that bit was worn out. So you'd have that weird crackling bit in the middle.
Yeah.
Just along that, because we literally wore the tape out. Tell me you're autistic without telling me you're autistic.
Yes. But like even more so as you look at the influence of the fact that I know it was past the life of Walt Disney, but when they acquired Pixar in the early 90s, Toy Story and all of those films, like I still have the Buzz Lightyear and Woody toy that I had from when I was a kid, and they're tatty as anything, but I've still got them. But it's I go even further back into the time of when Walt Disney was alive, you know, Snow White, Disney World. I've spent a lot of time at Disney World and Disneyland as a kid and as an adult, and still get a lot of enjoyment out of it. But like his Robin Hood, I absolutely love the Disney version of Robin Hood. And
100%.
It's my favorite version of the story of Robin Hood, other than the Goons radio version, which has got Peter Sellers and Spike Milligan and Harry Seacombe in it, who I probably also would say Peter Sellers would be an ND hero of mine. But again, I can't say specifically whether he was or not, but my suspicions is that he was. So for Disney, for me, it's like my partner and I went to Disneyland twice last year. We went once and got a taste of it and went back again because we just had such a good time, and it brings out your inner child. And I suppose, maybe I am a Disney adult. I don't know. But I find a lot of joy from watching the films, and it's brought a lot of laughter and a lot of fun in my childhood throughout my life.
So I'd never heard this phrase Disney adult until recently.
Social media, yeah.
Yeah, because when I had my kids, the first thing I was doing was like I got excited because I was like, you've never seen Cinderella, you've
Mm.
never seen the mice building the dress and
Yeah, exactly.
you've never seen that.
Yeah.
You've never heard a whole new world. You've never seen Flounder.
Yeah.
You've never seen Buzz Lightyear. You've never seen Buzz Lightyear because like
Oh, dude.
when Toy Story came out. Okay, so what I love about Toy Story is that obviously it's Pixar, but Pixar was actually funded by Steve Jobs.
Yes, it was a
And
breakthrough of Apple, yeah.
Steve Jobs definitely neurodivergent. I mean, no one's going to argue with that one. So, thanks to Steve Jobs, and thanks to Walt Disney, just existing and creating this wonderful studios, we have Toy Story, which was innovating at the time. It's
Mhm.
like you'd never seen anything like it. It's CGI, it was incredible. And that when you look at it now, you can see how dated it is. But
Mhm.
when we watched it, I was watching it in the cinema, and it blew my mind. I saw it 7 times in the cinema.
What,
I
Toy
actually,
Story? Wow.
yeah,
I saw Toy Story 2 a couple of times because the intro, the beginning of Toy Story 2 is one of the best beginnings of any film I've ever seen when Buzz is actually like in space. Blew my
mm.
mind when I saw that in the cinema as a kid. Absolutely blew my mind.
But I was the first person in the country to own a Buzz Lightyear toy because
Whoa.
I ordered it from the Disney store in Guildford, which no longer exists. And I got a call and I went in to pick it up. And the guy said, "Oh, you're the first person to come pick it up. And we're the first store to get it. And to be fair, we shouldn't have actually called you because it's not out till next week." So he said, "Because you've turned up, we're going to let you have it." Because I'd gone on the bus all the way there and I'm all wide eyed and
Please, sir, please.
And he went, "You are literally the first person in this country to own this." And I still own it, but I made a big mistake and I let my son play with it, and he broke it. So I have probably a very valuable
Broken.
Buzz
One of a
Lightyear
kind.
toy, one of a kind. Yeah, first ever in the country. Because I know autistic people that collect Buzz Lightyear toys, like who actually
Mm.
collect them. And I had the first one in the whole country, and I gave it to my son. And because I never really understand the value of toys, because the value of toys to me is to play with
Yeah,
them.
me too.
That's why I take all the pop characters straight out of the boxes. I took all the He-Man figures out of the boxes, I got everything out of the boxes because I don't understand. I mean, I do understand why people keep them in the boxes because it's a
Mm.
value thing. So I understand it's a collectible thing. So obviously I'm not judging that. I'm saying for me, the value is in my happiness of just being able to touch and like stim on thing.
Yeah, definitely. So another name with our childhood that we both have in common is Roald Dahl. Now, we've both discussed his stories together at length, but do you have a favourite Roald Dahl book? Because I read loads of them when I was a kid. And when I say I read them, I mean my dad read them to me. And he used to do lots of voices, and every different character would have a different voice. And he really introduced me into like fun storytelling. And I guess that's a lot of where my interest in like acting and performing arts came from, is my dad reading me Roald Dahl books.
Yeah, I would do the same for my kids. Roald Dahl was my literary hero as I was growing up. Later on, it was Stephen King. It still
Mm.
is Stephen King now. But yeah, Roald Dahl was because my dad was a huge Roald Dahl fan, so he wouldn't read me the books. That's crazy. That would be what dads are meant to do. My dad didn't do what dads are meant to do. My dad did his own thing because he was in his own little world. But he would give me these books, and I would read them, and I loved James and the Giant Peach. There was something about this mistreated child. And to be fair, you get a lot of that in Roald Dahl books,
Yeah,
like
it's
Matilda.
kind of a running theme, yeah.
Matilda was another one of my favorites. I really felt like I definitely, felt like I was Matilda, the outside person mistreated by their parents. And I always think about like Mrs. Honey was just Sylvia, just came along and rescued me. So I look at my life and I think my life is very much like in a Matilda way. But it was James and the Giant Peach that sort of really gave me this love of fantasy, love of writing, because obviously I've written my own book. If anyone wants to read it, it's called A Little Different from the Rest. You can buy it on Amazon. I self-published it because I wrote it for my kids, and it's very much influenced by the writing that I grew up with, which is this fantasy version of a life that I wanted to live, and the idea of being able to escape it, just being like, because he obviously escaped in the Giant Peach and went off with all his little friends, and just that idea of escapism. And I had the same with the Enchanted Wood, with the faraway tree, where they could just go up the faraway tree and they could just escape. So that was my whole childhood, was reading books about being able to escape my life, and Roald Dahl made the best books for that.
Yeah, do you know, it's funny, out of all of the books you've mentioned, you haven't mentioned my favorite, which is fun. But I watched something a little while ago on, I can't remember whether it was Instagram or TikTok, but somebody had done a study based on the comments of their video, and it had over like 25,000 replies, which is, what is your favorite film to watch as an autistic? And Matilda came out so high up on that list of films that autistic people like to rewatch for comfort.
The original.
The OG one, yeah, the one with.
Although I do like the Tim Minchin one.
Yeah, don't get me. I much prefer the show. If you're ever going to go and see a musical, I will always say, please go watch the live show of it, because you'll get more of a visceral connection from live voice and stuff. But the film's great. I really did enjoy it, and I love Stephen Gray and most things that he's in. I think he's brilliant, and I did enjoy that film. But no, my favorite Roald Dahl stories, Danny the Champion of the World.
Love that.
My dad used to read that to me, and I used to love that story so much. Fantastic Mr. Fox is one of my favorite stories. I absolutely love the Wes Anderson film with George Clooney and some of the voice actors in it. But the way the film's been made as well is fantastic, in my opinion.
There was so many brilliant British actors that should have played Fantastic Mr. Fox. But that's what ruined it for me, was the Americanization of it. Like the idea that, to make it popular, we had to put American actors, because of George Clooney was huge at the time. And I think I think George Clooney's great. But Fantastic Mr. Fox it should be English. I'm like, what are you doing? But also, I have to talk about Quentin Blake. His illustrations were so gruesome and freakish. That's what made I loved that sort of art.
It's the absurd, the surreal, macabre sort of,
The fact that you didn't have to be an artist that created perfect pictures, that you could just have your own style, and it worked.
Well, a lot of Roald Dahl's characters are really ugly, aren't they?
Because people are, and he could see that. I'm not saying everyone is, but I mean, just inside. People there's so many people inside that are ugly, because he didn't make all his characters ugly. He made the nasty ones ugly.
Yeah, he showed their insides on the outside.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's funny as you mentioned the American thing. There was a story that he does about an anteater, and they have an American ant to come, and they don't say aunt, they say ant. They don't say can't, they say can't. And the anteater eats the American ant because she says, I'm an ant, not an aunt. Just a fun little thing for you there, Jordan. So we've talked about a couple of things that have been very influential in our childhood. Now, for me personally, Satoshi Tajiri, the inventor of Pokemon, had a huge influence on my life, because I spent so many summers playing Pokemon Yellow and Pokemon Silver, Pokemon Ruby and Emerald. But I also
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's the games, the video games.
Sorry, I don't care.
Okay, fine. fine. But the TV show, loved the TV show, and my parents forcibly had to watch the TV show with me loads when I was a kid. Not Pokemon, not do it for you, not at all, not even a smidge.
No. In all honesty, joking aside, Pokemon was I never understood Pokemon. My kids, I never stopped them from being in it. I just told them it was really stupid. Maybe that had some sort of influence. But that's the thing about when you're autistic, you just sort of say what you're thinking. And one of my favorite episodes of South Park is when they take the Mickey out of Pokemon and the obsession, the ridiculous obsession with this Pokemon thing.
Chim Pokemon or something?
Yeah, it's like Chim Pokemon. So that was literally the only thing I actually knew about Pokemon was through pretty much most of the things that I end up getting an opinion about. It starts with South Park, which is why Matt and Trey is probably the biggest influence in my life. But again, I think they're neurodivergent, but nothing's confirmed, so they're not part of this, even though I just made them part of it.
So adding on top of that, other than, video games and the shows that we watched, you and I have one thing in common, is that we have both loved and always have loved stand-up comedy and take a lot from stand-up comedy. Now,
my entire personality, whenever I do a talk or I try and be around other people, it's just stand-up comedians that I have mimicked, because I'm like, well, if you can get in front of everyone and entertain and be able to talk, then that's how I'm going to do it. Because I used to always be afraid to talk to people, but then I thought, well, if I can be kooky, if I can be funny, if I can be like that, then maybe I'll be popular. So that's literally stand-up comedians literally became my personality.
And I tell you what, there is nothing quite like an adrenaline shot to the heart for me when people laugh at a joke I say. The dopamine that I get when I feel like I'm the funniest guy in the room, because I am really witty and I'm very quick-witted and I do have a lot of one-liners lined up. But what a lot of people don't realize is that I didn't write them. It's just an accumulation of all the stand-up comics I've ever seen, and I just seem to have this almost like echolalia ability of finding a joke from somebody's set that just happens to match the moment at the time. But you and I were talking about this, and oddly enough, this is why we're really good friends. We were basically saying the same comedians when we were listing our neurodivergent influences.
Yeah, it's the wackiest ones.
Yeah, it's the wild ones. It's like I would have said Lee Evans, but again,
yeah, I'm pretty sure Lee Evans is ADHD, dude.
Is it confirmed?
That I don't know because I didn't research it.
Neither did I, so we'll move on.
If Lee Evans isn't ADHD, then ADHD doesn't exist.
Exactly, because Lee Evans for me was such a big comedian when I was growing up and a kid. I even went to see him live.
Oh, me too.
How much of an influence he had on me. But the comedian that I come to the most, because me and my dad constantly quote his specials. We constantly quote his films and his jokes. And he also voiced the most influential character in my childhood, which was the genie in Aladdin.
The genie. Oh,
and his Robin Williams.
I think that's his best performance.
Yeah, but
is that crazy?
No, not at all. I mean, when you look at Good Will Hunting to Hook to Flubber to Mrs. Doubtfire, incredible range. Even Night at the Museum, his Roosevelt's fantastic. Or is it?
He was just so good. He was so. He was the first comedian that I can think of that bridged that gap. Who was known for his wacky comedy and Mork and Mindy, and then like Mrs. Doubtfire and things like this.
Jumanji as well, great film.
So good, but then was able to do actual serious movies is it Dead Poet Society?
Oh, yeah. And Good Will Hunting as well. Some of the scenes he has with Matt Damon are some of the best acted scenes I've ever seen on screen.
But even one where he was a serial killer.
I've not seen that one, but I've heard it is really good.
Yeah.
He did a special when in the 80s. This was in his peak colourful shirt sort of days. Because one of the things that I don't even consider with Robin Williams, he's a fashion icon. Some of the outfits and stuff that he used to wear have timeless sort of imagery that really I implement into my fashion today. But he's live at the Met special, dude. Every time I speak to my dad on the phone, we will say something from that special. And there's not a day goes by where I don't find something, a Robin Williams joke, that will relate to something that will make me laugh in a day. The man was a hero, and he's probably the only person I've never known that when they died, I cried.
Oh, yeah.
Bawled my eyes out when he passed. Really, really sad.
I've cried a few celebrity deaths, but his was just
heartbreaking.
It just absolutely, I mourned the loss of that great man. Like, I mourned him like he was a friend, because he was such a big part of my childhood growing up. I mean, Hook for me is still for me. Hook is up there with the Goonies, and people be like, "Oh, you kidding?"
No, it's like up there.
It's so good. It's like for like, obviously that's, you know, it's 90s, but as far as like 90s movies, 90s kids movies, it's one of the best. That and like Casper and Babe. Oh, I love Babe so much.
It still amazes me that the guy who wrote and directed Babe, George Miller, the other thing that he worked on and wrote was Mad Max.
That is so cool.
His work goes Mad Max, Babe, Babe, Pig in the City, Mad Max Fury Road. And I love that. That's just so good.
My friend showed me this picture, and it's the Dementus from the new movie. And behind him, his entire crew is just Muppets. And I was like, oh my God. Like, there are a few films that I would love to see as the Muppets. I would love to see Muppet Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
But I would also love to see like Muppet Mad Max.
Oh, Muppet Mad Max would be amazing.
We bring back Tom Hardy and he plays it seriously.
And just all of the war boys are played by Gonzo in every single role.
No, Pika.
just throwing himself off. No, okay, right. Yeah, Henson Studios, get in touch with us. We've got an idea for you. I'd really like to have seen. I would have loved to see a Muppet James Bond. I'd love to see Kermit play James Bond. That is something that I would happily see.
God, so good. Anyway, enough about the indie hero who is apparently not diagnosed.
Anyway, yeah. So who else do we have on our list here? The big person with me who's become a bit of a part of my personality is Jim Carrey. It's like
huge.
Every single time anybody says anything to me where I don't know what to do and I pull a face, I pull the Jim Carrey face. It's just instinctual. I always do it. It's like I remember the first films I ever had like a hyperfixation on that I watched over and over again were The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Jim Carrey for me is like, you talk about echolalia, like the amount of phrases that I get from Jim Carrey movies is disgraceful. I should be paying the man royalties because like a glove.
I do that every time I park a car.
Every time I park, yeah.
Every time. I literally did I reversed my car the other day and I was just like a glove.
Like a glove.
Yeah, to myself.
And when someone parks badly, I went, their glove didn't fit.
Dude, I do it all the time. It's like I literally will see a dog at work and I'll just start going, hey, like instantly. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And it all comes from Ace Ventura. All comes from Ace Ventura.
Do you know, one of my favorite ever moments when watching a Jim Carrey movie is in Liar Liar, right? They've got if you watch Liar Liar, or the version I watched, at the end, they got bloopers.
Yeah.
And there's the bit where he's arguing with the opposition lawyer who's played by a lady, and a lady, and he's going blah blah blah, and then she just goes, over actor, and he just goes, and he just stops and he just starts laughing. And she's like, I'm so sorry, they told me to do it. Because that was his thing. He was an over actor. Like, he was just that. But then, like, he was the other person after Robin Williams who bridged that gap of like being able to then go into something more serious. And considering how wacky and comedic and worldwide famous he was, I think at the time, like at his peak, he was like the most highly paid actor in the world.
Yeah, in the mid-90s, he was, there's an amazing story. Have you heard the story that he talks about with that?
No.
So he was saying that he got his entire routine, his entire shtick from his dad. He said, all I'm doing is an impression of my father when he's on stage. And he talks about in like 1991, he wrote himself, Jim Carrey wrote himself a check for $10 million. And in 1994, the three highest grossing films were The Mask, Ace Ventura, and Dumb and Dumber. And in the December of 1994, he cashed the check.
Wow.
It was like a success story of going back in himself and going, no, I can do this. I believe in myself. And he proved himself right.
Yeah. I always think that is a neurodivergent trait that is not often talked about because it makes people sound like they're full of themselves. But I love that hyper focus of saying, okay, one day I will achieve this. And this is why I look at this podcast and I actually look at the future of this podcast and I go, one day we will be through the roof. This will be the most popular neurodivergent podcast on the planet. And I don't actually doubt that mostly because of you, I'll be honest, because you are so good at what you do. Like I've been talking since I was able to talk, I'm not doing anything special.
Came out the womb going, hello.
And like I said, well, I'm just plagiarizing every comedian that I've ever known. And all my opinions are just Matt and Trey's. So really, I'm just not even a person. I'm
just a walking echolale.
I'm just walking echolale. I'm just a product. I'm a product of my upbringing. But you did, like, honestly, what you do and how you've put it together and the hard work that you do, you are the reason why this podcast is going to be so successful. And I'm just coming along for the ride. And I'm very, very happy to be part of it.
No, it's one of the great joys of my life doing this, my friend. Really, really is. But no, you've managed to help me segue actually really well when you're talking about these characters who go, no, this is my goal and I'm going to do it, and everyone kind of get out of my way. Tom Brady.
Yep.
Quarterback, GOAT, has won more Super Bowls personally as a player himself than any other team. So imagine, like, in basketball, all the teams have won these things like the Celtics or the Lakers. Imagine if there's a player that's won more than any team combined. Like, he's ridiculous. But his story is very much along that lines of he was Mr. Irrelevant. And in the NFL draft of their drafting system, they bring their collegiate players into the league for people that aren't aware. It would be like university students then being drafted into the Premier League to play football. Similar sort of idea. He was the last person on the list, which basically means you'll be lucky if you even play a game, let alone have a career. And he walked into the office of the owner of the New England Patriots, Robert Kraft, and said, I am the best decision this franchise has ever made. And everyone looked at him like, yeah, all right, kid. Went on to a team who had the highest paid quarterback. There was no way that he was going to get that job. The guy went down injured. He turned to his friend and said, if they let me on that field, they ain't ever going to take me off. 7 Super Bowls later, he was right. And the man is an absolute machine. He's a warrior on the field, and his attention to detail and his ability to practice is the equivalent to Michael Jordan in the sport. He's just absolutely unmatched in his tenacity, his work ethic, his ability to be a winner, to make those around him better. And you know what? He's a flawed player. There are elements of his game that aren't as good as other people's, but he just worked on it and worked on it and worked on it. And I have a lot of respect for people that are downtrodden, get told that they can't do it and go, just watch me, because I feel like that nearly every day. There are times where I go, you just wait until I get my rings. And I haven't got them yet, but you just wait. And that's why I really like Tom Brady. Sometimes there are days when I feel like you were just saying to me with this podcast, I've been trying to do my own podcast for 4 years, and I tried to do it on my own. I've tried to do different things with different people, and it's taken a long time. And there have been a lot of times where I've been on the phone crying to my parents, thinking, I'm never going to be able to do this. I'm never going to be able to make this work. And people like Jim Carrey and Tom Brady have made me go, no, my time's coming. It's just not right now. And have kept me in the game and kept me going and kept me going. And those sorts of people really have had a big influence on my life because they've told me never to give up, and I haven't.
Yeah, I have that exact same mentality, especially when it came to my photography. Um, because when I was a kid, I was always told that I wasn't good enough.
Mm.
That's all my life. I was told I wasn't good enough. I was never going to be great at anything. Oh yeah, you're all right at that. You know, what was they called? Jack of all trades, master of none. But because I was constantly moving from one thing to another, I could never really stick with one thing. So I'd know loads about one thing, and then I'd get bored, and then I'd move on to the other. So I was always just trying to, and I don't think that I mean, it is definitely part of being having a hyperactive brain, but I also think it's because I hadn't found my thing, and that was
Mm.
the point. Is that I'd get really good at something, but I'd be like, do you know what? I don't really like it that. I don't really care that much. I did, and now I don't. So I was just searching for that one thing, and when I found photography, and to get as good as I did, and as quickly as it happened, that just excited me, and that's why I love photography so much, and because it was the one thing that when I got really good at it, I felt like I'd actually achieved what I was meant to achieve. And
Mm.
it does make me very happy to be able to look back and go, yeah, those all those people that doubted me. Look at me now. Look at me with my international selling photography, international selling book, international podcast. You know, gorgeous family. You know, look at everything I've achieved. Because I tell you what, my own birth mother told me that I was a waste of time. So that was the mentality that I had. But you talk about like high achievers, neurodivergent high achievers. You know, it's like nothing new, and 100%. You look at the best in their fields of just for instance sport. The world's strongest man is neurodivergent. He's autistic, and Michael Phelps is neurodivergent. You know, he's like the greatest Olympian of all time.
He's basically a shark, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you've got Lionel Messi, who is probably the greatest footballer of all time, is
Mm.
diagnosed autistic.
The fact that you have these diverse characters in their neurodivergent ability, and it does really open the world up to you having these really influential characters. And it is a shame that we talk about you going, there would be so many more people on this list, but it's hard to talk about people without knowing whether they are truly neurodivergent, whether we believe they are or not. But also, they aren't always necessarily comfortable with talking about it. We discussed how a lot of people previously, how a lot of people in this list will say that they're dyslexic, but may not necessarily say that they're autistic or have ADHD. So us having a conversation about it hopefully will, make more people want to be talking about it in a positive way, because these people do have a huge influence on us and have brought a lot of joy to our lives, even in the fact of we're talking about echolalia with like Jim Carrey and people like that. They've had a huge influence on our lives and play a really big part day to day. And I think if more people were openly willing to talk about their neurodivergence, I think a lot more people would feel truly comfortable and a bit more accepting of themselves when they see better representation in screens of people of different creeds, of different colors. It does really unify everybody and is really important, I think, for society as a whole, with the neurodivergent culture that is growing because it is becoming more prominent in society. I really do think we need our heroes and people of big influence to kind of step into the space and own it.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, there's a part of me that wishes people were more open about their neurodivergence, simply because I think it would be so helpful to others, and it's like that's why I'm so open about it, because I know that I know for a fact there are people with my pictures on their walls, and they tell me that they look at my pictures and it inspires them. It inspires their kids, and they use my photography and my story and my journey as an example of like what you can achieve, even when you weren't supported properly. But once you start getting that actual decent support, look what I've gone on to achieve. Because I felt like I even though I was living my life just for my kids. Like my entire life my existence was just for my wife and for my kids. And I never really thought about living for me. And it wasn't until photography I actually realized, oh, wait a minute, I can actually enjoy my time as well. I can be my own person rather than just a dad or a husband. I was able to be my own person. And because I actually started to love myself, which was a really, really hard thing to do. I don't know what I'm going, honestly.
It's all right, my dude. Are we running out of spoons? Are we nearly there?
100%.
Right, okay. So what we'll do, ladies and gentlemen, is we'll read a couple of reviews to wrap up, and then we will say goodbye for the week, because I am very quickly running out of spoons myself. So if you've got a couple of reviews there, Jordan, we'll read them out, and then we will say goodbye to you until next week. Oh, the glasses are on. It's serious.
It is. It's very serious. When I'm running out of spoons, I can't see. Apparently, that's what's happened. Okay, so I got this one yesterday, and it's from Jam Jam, which is a cool name. I listened to your latest episode on Jenga and spoons. That's 2 episodes ago. And oh my God, I laughed, grinned, nodded constantly, all that while driving. In brackets, still focused on the road, mind you.
Oh, that's good.
No one believes you. No one believes you.
Okay.
It's my favourite so far as a parent of neurodivergent children. Also, the meltdown when faced with change of plans versus personal expectations. I loved all of it. Well done, guys, for yet again a great podcast.
Oh,
so
appreciate that.
That is
Thank you so
awesome.
Much.
And it is exactly that thing we were talking about, the fact that, we're serious, but like if we can have a laugh and make each other laugh and make other people laugh, that makes us feel good about ourselves because we enjoy doing that,
Oh, absolutely. It's like you were talking about, how good it made you feel watching these things and having the time to yourself. This podcast is a case by case study of how talking about this and being involved in the culture and talking about other people and speaking to other people is really, really helping me grow on this journey. I mean, blimey. So yeah, you listen back to episode 22, which we're on right now. It's a completely different person. It is really quite amazing. So I'm really glad that you guys are listening to it and taking so much from this. It is really, mate, it's very special.
And don't forget to watch us on the YouTube channel.
So yeah, go check us out on the YouTube channel at the Neurodivergent Pod. You can also
check
find
me out,
us.
baby.
So yeah, check him out at the Neurodivergent Experience Pod on YouTube, on Facebook, and also on Instagram. So I think that is everything for this week. Once again, thank you so much for joining us on this journey, whether you found a moment of recollection, reassurance, or just a little moment of happiness just listening to these goofy goobers having a chat, then we've done exactly what we aim to do this week. Okay, so as always, say goodbye, Jordan, to everybody.
No, I don't want to.
All right then, see ya. Bye.